Rabbi Cohen, welcome.
Morning, Rabbi Isai. How's it going?
Nice to put a face to the name eventually.
Finally got a rabbi.
Yeah. What do you mean you finally got a rabbi? Your rabbi's over there.
I have a rabbi cab, but we wanted, the expert.
We did want the expert, and we wanted to
like you've been learning with Baba Kama, they always have somebody above them. Well, there's Rabbi Damon and there's Rabbi Cohen.
The only difference between me and Damon is I put more time into growing my beard.
We like to call Damon Rabbi, but he's very modest. He doesn't. Well, he feels he doesn't deserve the title, but we're very proud of it.
The truth is, he's halfway there because his surname's Cab, so he's Kabbalist. Yeah, list it, and he's fine.
That's very clever.
You knew I'd embarrass you, James. Sorry, I have to.
So thanks, Rabbi Cohen, really, for taking the time. And also for helping us on issues where we've gotten into a difficult spot, really.
Okay.
It's been very informative.
Glad that I can try and help as much as I can.
Thank you.
All right. So you guys wanted to understand a little bit about the nature of Gemara. So there's a misconception about Gemara. And that misconception is that Gemara is like court records. It's records of discussions that happened. And, they just happened to be in the base medrash, and they were discussing things, and then they made notes of everything, and those notes are then what's come down to us. And that's a grave error. You have to understand that the Gemara that we have is it's b'diavad. B'diavad means that it's not the way it should be. What do I mean? In principle, we have Torah is structured. You've got the written Torah, which is the Chumash that we got from Har Sinai, and then together with that you have the oral Torah. Now, people have the understanding that the oral Torah is just the explanation of the written Torah, and that's not true. That's not true. It's much, much more. There's actually, we've just done in the Daf recently, a fascinating Gemara in Eruvin, where it says that Hashem was, the Nevi'im, the prophets, say that they saw a vision of the oral Torah. And it says they saw a vision of the oral Torah, and it was a scroll, the oral Torah written down, it was a scroll, and it says this scroll ended up being 40 amas, let me just think, 40 amas by 20 amas. Right. It was enormous. 40 amas, about 20 amas, but it says not of our amas, an amma is a cubit, right? The size, but it says of Hashem's cubits, and the whole universe, it says, this is a cryptic Gemara, the whole universe, it says, is a half a amma by half a amma. So it comes out in the Gemara, it says that the whole universe that we see is one part in 3,200 of the Torah. In other words, Torah, the oral Torah, whatever that is 3,200 times bigger than the whole universe. Whatever that means. So it says, it discusses over there, so why wasn't the oral Torah written down? It says the oral Torah wasn't written down because it's so big. You can't encapsulate all of Torah in a finite thing. Now, the oral Torah, as the name means, it was transmitted orally from the time of Moshe Rabbeinu all the way until the end of after the second Beis Hamikdash. The Gemara says that everything in the Gemara, everything in the Zohar, everything in the Midrashim was all given to Moshe Rabbeinu at Har Sinai. Another discussion in Mitzvah Hashem, we can discuss at another point how that's happened, but I don't want to get into that now. But it was all given to Hashem, to Moshe Rabbeinu at Har Sinai, and it was transmitted orally. Now there came a time when, because of the difficulties that the Jewish nation was going through, it became very difficult for a person to sit by their Rebbe and learn everything the way they needed to, so that they could remember it. I mean, it's a big job. It's a big job to learn all the material and to remember it. You have to go over it many, many times. So what happened is, in the time of Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, which is after the second Beis HaMikdash, they formalized the text of the Mishnah. Okay. And later, and then over the next 600 years odd, they formalized the text of the Gemara. Now, the text of the Gemara, and this is the key point I want to tell you, that it's not a record. What they did is the Ravina and Ravashi, and their Sanhedrin, what they did is they took statements and lines of logic and they created an artificial discussion. You have to understand that the discussions you're going to see in the Gemara are man-made. They built up in order to teach certain principles. So it's not that, so when they start out, as they're starting out, they know exactly what's going to be happening. Right from the beginning, they know exactly what's going to be happening. But what they do is they build it up in such a way as to give you many, many different perspectives on something. And I'll give you some example, right? I'm going to hold up this book, right? Are you seeing the same book as I'm seeing? Right?
No, because you've seen the back of the book and we're seeing the front of the book.
That's right. So if we want to see the whole book, we have to turn it around and we have to look at all the different angles. Okay. If we want to understand a topic, we need to examine it from a whole number of different perspectives. Now, that's what the process of the arguments in the Gemara generally do. They take an idea and they examine it from a whole number of different perspectives, even though they know that that's not the halacha. But what happens is when you take that line of logic and you follow that path in the Gemara, you're going to understand the concept better. And an important thing about Gemara is not case law. Gemara is not case law. Gemara is principles. Gemara is principles. So when you're going to learn Gemara, what happens is you're going to take the cases that you're discussing and you're going to abstract from them principles. And then those principles are going to apply in a lot of different other places. That's what Gemara is really about. Gemara is a process of building. It's a process of building new understandings. So I'll share with you a perspective. There are different words that we use for understanding. You've got a similar one. Chochma, Bina, Da'at. Okay? What the first letters of those spell?
Chabad.
What are they? Eh? Chabad. Chabad. That's where it comes from. Chochma, Bina, Da'at. Okay. Now, if I can help you understand a little bit, Chochma is like collecting bricks. Yeah. Chochma is bricks. You have the pieces of information, but they don't have any structure. When you take bricks and you put them into you arrange the bricks, you arrange them in a form, and you arrange one thing on top of another in the right way, that's called building. That's bina. That's the same word, to be boneh, to build. So you take ideas and you put them all together and you figure out, okay, so now what does that mean and what comes out of that? You build something new. So an example of that would be Avram Avinu looks at the world, and Avram Avinu sees a world that has structure. Avram sees a world that there's chesed, that all the needs of all creatures are taken care of. Adam Avinu looks in the world and he sees the sun and the star and the moon and everything. And so that's all chokhmah. Avram Avinu puts those pieces together and he realizes that the world has a creator. That's bina. He took all the pieces together, he put it together, and he came up with a new thing that wasn't written there. It wasn't there, but it's true. So that's bina. And then that is when one lives in this building. It becomes part of your reality. So that was when Avram Avinu was prepared to go into the furnace. He was prepared to give up his life because he knew that Hashem exists and Hashem is true. So now those things, you say it in the davening. You say that in the davening. When you say Atah Chonen, in your davening, in your Shemona Esrei, you've got your three first brachas in which you praise Hashem, and then you start making requests. The first of the requests you make is Atah Chonen LaAdam Da'at. You graciously gave to man dat umlamed le'enosh bina. And you teach an enosh bina. You teach a person, a humble person, a lowly person, you teach him bina. So bina, this process of building, is something that you can learn. And that's one of the things that Gemara does. Rav Simcha Wasserman Zatzal said, Gemara is a mind-grinding tool. When you learn Gemara, you have to engage your mind in it, and you have to follow all the different lines of logic. And what you're doing is you're training. You're training. If I can make reference, lahavdil, to an old movie. Do you guys remember Karate Kid?
Yeah.
Sure.
Right. So what happened? Right.
Wax on, wax on, wax off.
Wax on, wax off, right?
Yeah.
So what was he doing? What was he doing?
Creating muscle memory.
He was creating muscle memory. Okay, that's what he was doing. He was doing something that seemed to be pretty mundane, but in the process, he was preparing him for something that he needed later. Now, Gemara is not Karate Kid. Gemara is not wax on, wax off. Right? But Gemara trains your mind. It trains your mental muscles. So to analyze things in a whole lot of different ways, and that makes your whole world a much richer world. It's not. You should know. One of the reasons that women don't learn Gemara is because they don't appreciate this whole process. They want to know, what's the bottom line? What's the bottom line? What do I have to do? What don't I have to do? Oh, you're allowed to do it. You're not allowed to do it. Is it kosher? Is it trade? What is it? Just don't bother me with the details. And Gemara is all about the details. Gemara is to take the details and from the details abstract the general principle and then apply that all over. And this is a big process. This is a big process. So I'm saying what you can do with the Gemara at each stage, you've got to ask yourself the questions in the process about what are we doing. So if you're saying something, what are they telling you? If there's a question, what don't they know? If there's an answer, how did the answer the question? If there's a difficulty, what is the difficulty upon and what's the problem? If we're resolving it, how did we resolve it? If we're proving something, how does this show that it's true? If we're disproving something, how does it show that it's false? Right? Dan, have you got a PDF of my book?
Yes, I do, Rabbi. I do.
If you've got the PDF, send it. This is I think the chapter 4 in the book. The questions that you can ask yourself, and you'll see that when you start asking yourselves those questions, you'll see that that's what the Gemara is dealing with, and that's what the Rishonim in the commentaries are all dealing with. So again, just to clarify, the commentaries on the Gemara are not, I think it's this way, I think it's that way. It's not at all. It's not at all. They're showing you different paths in which you can analyze the different topics. There's an idea, and with this I'll conclude for the moment. Rav Simcha Wasserman Zatzal said, he said, Gemara is like a string, like a knot that you untangle, and Gemara is like a diamond. So what is it? If you have the pleasure of having a piece of string that's all in a knot, you work at it, you work at it, you work at it, and then you see it's just one string. It looked like a big bundle, and it turns out to be one string and just goes straight through from one end to the other. That's one perspective you need to get on the Gemara. That it just all flows through and you see how one thing follows from another. And he says there's another aspect of Gemara. Gemara is like a diamond. You take a diamond and you hold the diamond up to the light. As you hold it up, you're going to see all different colors coming through the different facets. And that's also Gemara, because you're going to take a topic and you're going to investigate it and you're going to look at it this way, this way, and the other way. And it's a very rich experience. But as I said, it takes time and it takes effort. The Mishlei, in Mishlei, Shlomo HaMelech says there are 3 reasons why people have difficulty connecting to Torah. The one reason is they're very involved in chasing their physical pleasures. They're very involved in chasing physical pleasures, and that makes it difficult for them to enjoy intellectual, spiritual pleasures. The other one is, he says, that people have a natural tendency to enjoy meaningless things.
Okay.
Right?
I agree.
Right? They have a natural tendency. That's why people can play video games and can watch soccer games, right? And can follow politics, because this is all meaningless, But for whatever reason, it gives them, it's another reason why that's such a powerful urge. But that's the second reason, because they enjoy meaningless things. And that it has a strong attraction and almost an addictive quality. And this is the third reason that people don't do learning, is they want everything to come easy. They want everything to come easy. And when they realize that Gemara takes effort and learning takes effort, then they say, it's for somebody else. So when we recognize that those are the challenges that we face, we can try and reduce the challenges in each area. And the more we put into it, it says the Torah gives us koyach. The more you learn and the more you commit yourself to it and the more effort you put into it, that's like nourishment for your neshama. You nourish your neshama through your seichel, through your mind. And that's what Gemara is about. So I hope that gives a little bit more clarity.
That was amazing.
No, that is very good, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
I think you.
Thank you, Rob.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head with me. I tell you.
I know why you understand the title of your book now. I actually never understood the title of your book.
No, yeah, so that's where it comes from.
I'd love, Jamin, is that the PDF file you sent?
No, I sent you a screenshot on Amazon on terms of Rabbi Cohen's book. But I could never understand that reference to the knot and untying it, etc.
Yeah.
Until now.
No, but you've got the PDF. You can.
Yes, but I could certainly not distribute anything without your permission, other than my own
so
reference.
Please give it to the guys.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Rabbi.
And Rav, I got to tell you one thing. The same process is exactly explained. Like in the beginning, when I first started, I was banging my head against cement, trying to get this thing in. I almost quit, and I said no. And eventually, after struggling, and then I started getting the basics, and then it just started. Just once you get that golden nugget, and it starts making a bit more sense, and you just stick it out, suddenly you get addicted to it. It goes from almost like I hate doing it to I love doing it, like a switch over, like as soon as you start understanding. But it does take a lot of effort, 100%.
It takes effort, and what you're saying is actually there's a Orach Chaim HaKodesh. So one of the commentaries on Chumash in the Mikrat Gedolah, those big thick ones, one of the commentaries over there is the Orach Chaim HaKodesh. And the Orach Chaim HaKodesh, he says, if I recall correctly, it's on the pasuk. It says, "V'samachta b'kol ha'tov," you will rejoice with all the good. And he says, what does tov mean? Tov means Torah. As it says, "Ki lekach tov natati lachem," I've given you a good taking. It says, tov is Torah. He says, you'll rejoice with the Torah. And the Orach Chaim says exactly that. He says, a person who gets into the learning and starts doing it, it becomes so incredibly pleasurable that he becomes addicted to it. He says he becomes like a meshuggah about it. He just wants to do it more and more and more, just purely because of the pleasure. But it's a different pleasure. The difference is that if you're going to be eating your hamburger or your steak or whatever it is, there comes a point where you're full and you can't eat anymore. But that's not the case with spiritual pleasures and with learning. You can't get too full of it. You do it more, and the more you want, the more you enjoy, and the more it goes in it more and more and more and more.
And it's low calorie.
Sorry?
And it's low calorie.
Yeah, Rabbi, you don't have to be at a particular intellectual level to appreciate this, to get the full benefit from. Well, I mean, obviously some people are more gifted in their reading. All right.
So let me talk to that point. Because the Gemara itself talks to that point. The Gemara says, when we take a look, this is a Gemara in Mendochos. Okay, so it's exactly the principle that was explained to you. So the Gemara in Mendochos says that you have different types of korban, different types of sacrifice that people can bring. So a person can bring a massive bull that could cost thousands and thousands and thousands. A person can bring a calf, a person can bring a sheep, a person can bring a kid goat, a person can bring birds, doves, or pigeons, and a person can bring flour. And with all of them, it says that it will go and it'll be reach nichoyach, a pleasing aroma in front of Hashem, whatever that means. So it says there'll be a pleasing aroma. So you have all these different things. Says the Gemara, what do we learn from the fact that it says this phrase, a pleasing aroma, by all these different things? Some are really cheap. I mean, you're talking about a bit of flour. That's cheap compared to a huge bull that costs thousands and thousands and thousands. It says, the Gemara says, it teaches us the principle, echad amarbe ve'echad amamit, where the person does a lot or a person does a little bit, as long as their intent is for the sake of heaven. And then the Gemara says that is said with regards to mitzvahs in general and Torah learning in particular. Now, as long as a person does their level best, they're going to get. They're going to get. And you can never compare yourself to somebody else. You only have to compare yourself to yourself. You say, I'm trying my level best, and then you will get it. You will get it. You'll get it. And that's what counts in Shemayim.
Yeah.
No, I get that. Thank you.
And luckily we have a genius like Damon who, I tell you, has a memory of recalling stuff. I mean, my hardest thing is recalling which rabbi said what. And Damon can go back like 12 years ago. Oh, this rabbi said this. And I like him going, how did he know all this stuff? He's just, I studied when Damon came to visit me in Israel, and I studied with him. He's incredible. He's an amazing teacher, great person.
The reality is that everybody's incredible. You just got to recognize it.
Yeah, no. Damon has skills in this. I mean, just his retention. I mean, I'm a little older than him. I'm 48, but he just has a mind that is amazing, and he teaches very well.
But Baruch Hashem, he's got a good mind that makes up for his sense of humor.
And a good heart.
Listen.
You know what? It's been a privilege to learn with my friends, and I've learned. It's actually been a way to force me to learn, because I can be naturally lazy, and it's amazing how the laziness dissipates when you're on the spotlight. So because you don't want egg on your face, so it's not completely altruistic. And the reality is, there's sometimes I felt very, very frustrated because I haven't been chapping or understanding it to the level that I felt I should have. And I've had to put in more work and more work and more work. It's not just about natural aptitude. If you mix the natural aptitude that a person has with effort, you're going to see amazing results. And it's cumulative. I mean, Arthur will tell you, I don't have a sense of direction, so we all got our weaknesses in Israel.
See, him and I are perfect when we're together. He knows how to get around Torah, and I can get him where he wants, which shul he wants to go to.
I'm a bit concerned about the sense of direction. Are we still busy with Baba Kama?
Very much.
Yeah, we just finished the first
chapter. As long as you stick to the same book, that's all I care about.
Absolutely.
So now you've got to follow with the sense of direction.
Rabbi, just before you go, I wanted to introduce you to everybody. The person next to you that helps me when I'm lost in Israel with a sense of direction and tells me you're going the wrong way. And generally in life, this is Arthur Tenowitz. I mean, him and I have been friends ever since high school. On top, you've met Gavin Stoller. Kevin Mayerthal and Gavin have known each other for over 2.5 decades. And also a close friend of mine's Kevin, as well as Gavin. And Michael Kupovitz above, he obviously some of the more taxing questions Mark was asked that have worn me out a bit, but it's been for my amazing growth, because I don't get away with anything. And we just want to thank you for being part of the process and helping us.
Sure.
My pleasure. In Yetz Hashem, we'll have opportunities to get together again.
Amen.
And it's nice to see a new face also.
Yeah.
After 95 lessons of the same people, it's great, but it's good to see somebody else joining.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rob. All right.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, ciao, bye.